Hello, St. Peter's. I have been actually eagerly waiting for this chance to chat with you, this 5 good minutes, which really is about figuring out how to bring Christian worship, Christian life into all of our lives and not just Sunday morning. It's good and right to go to church on Sunday, to hear the word, to worship, to pray. But now that word and that worship and that Jesus is Lord part of our life needs to get down into the everyday of how we live, into our kitchens, into our jobs, into the way we treat our families. That's really our goal. And this last Sunday, we talked about priorities and how the truth is we're all too busy. We're all doing more than we can possibly do. And so what really matters is what priorities you have. Now, we'll go deep into this on Wednesday. I hope you guys can come to community night where we always try to flesh this out even more in real life. But for today, I wanted to tell you a story of a saint and how priorities reshaped him. Now, he's a saint, so he went all the way, but we're also called to go all the way, honestly. And let's see how this story and the scriptures from Sunday can help to inspire us to seek first the kingdom. So the story I want to tell is of Saint Francis of Assisi, maybe one of the most famous saints. And when he was a kid, he was born actually into extreme wealth. His father was a silk merchant. His mother came from money. And as he grew and got older into his adolescence, into his early 20s, he became quite the high liver. Right? I mean, you can imagine what it's like to be handsome and young and rich. He spent lavishly. He was known for his beautiful clothes, for just living the high life, right? The thing in some ways all of us think we want the most. Most of us spend a good deal of time putting a priority on money. And he had all the money he could ever need. And his family was actually encouraging of this. So there's a great story of him where he runs into this beggar. At first he tells him to go away. Then he feels this guilt. So he runs and he gives him everything he can. But rather than be celebrated for that, rather than his family saying, well done, they mock him for it. His friends mock him for it. And his father is furious and rageful, really, that he would dare to give sort of the family money to this beggar. And Francis eventually joins the military. He goes to battle. He's injured. He spends about a year captive. And during that year of being kind of captive and sick, he reevaluates his life. And he believes that his life must be about more. And as he comes back home, he has this vision of Jesus asking him to rebuild my church. Rebuild my church is his cry. And he decides to do that. And he begins to work. Again, his father becomes very, very angry at him. And I want you to feel that, of what it's like maybe to have a father's disapproval of your desire to try to do what's right. And he's saying, come be part of the family business. These are the things that are really important. This is where your priorities should be. And Francis says, no. Eventually, there's this sort of famous scene where his father says, well, you need to make a choice. He's actually in court. You need to make a choice. And Francis says, I'm going to follow God. And he says, well, then you can have nothing of mine. And Francis takes even the clothes on his body off, gives it all back to his father, and says, my priority will be on following God. And he spends the rest of his life doing that, preaching the gospel in word and deed. He's famous for preaching to animals. If you want to read more about his life story, it's an extraordinary one. But my question for us, to get it down into the dirt, right, to earthiness of real faith, is what are the pressures that we feel in our lives that we're supposed to hold up to, right? Francis was under incredible pressure from his father to continue in the family way and to hold the family values. And there's cultural values and there's all sorts of things with that. All of us have those. things that we have been trained since birth to believe this is what is important. This is where your work should go, your priorities should be. So think about what those are for you. And then think, are these God's values? It's a real question. Are they the things that God says should come first? And if there is a discrepancy, think about, well, who do I trust more? Again, real question. I know we're supposed to say God, but we'll be able to tell who we trust more by the way we live. So who do we trust more? And as you think about those things, just pray about them. I believe in the power of prayer. I believe that God meets us on the other end of those prayers. I imagine for most of us, there's going to be some discrepancies. And we can just pray together, God, here's the truth. Here's the truth about me. Here's what I value. Here's what I feel called to value. And ask God if He would begin to do a movement in you so that you too might be able to say, like Francis did, I'm free. I'm free of these things that you think are so important, and I'm going to put my priority and my trust in Jesus. One just really practical thing I'd like to encourage as we close. An old mentor of mine used to say, you can't do any of this without God. So he'd ask me to commit to pray and read scripture for 3 minutes a day. And I think he did that because he knew it was so small. How could I say no? But also he knew that if I just opened the Word, if I did that faithfully every single day, it would change me. If I prayed every single day, it would change me. Would you make that a priority? 3 minutes. 3 minutes for God, but a priority. So the first thing you do, before you look at your phone, before you do other things, is you say, 3 minutes, God. I want to challenge you and encourage you to do that. And we'll talk more on Wednesday about how our priorities can be shaped by God. Thanks all. Look forward to seeing you then.